All things must come to an end. Each counseling session must close. Each series of counseling sessions must terminate. The time limits of the therapeutic situation, as with other limitations, furnishes the counseling relationship with many aspects of the life situation. The appropriate closing of each session and the termination of the counseling sessions are both important to the therapeutic relationship. The recognition of mutual time limitations has an early spot on the agenda of even the first session. If both the pastoral counselor and client decide that a number of sessions will probably be necessary to deal responsibly with the problem at hand, then the length of each session is normally a part of their covenant. Once clients become aware of time limitations, they have a much better idea of how to pace themselves during a counseling session. The manner in which a pastoral counselor closes each session deserves consideration. It is very risky to let a person get intensely anxious and then close the session because the clock has gotten to a certain point. That causes clients to feel intimidated by the whole subject of counseling, and this may also intolerably delay their efforts to work intently. On those rare occasions when an extension of the time limit seems appropriate, this change should be mentioned directly, discussed, and jointly agreed upon, not just done. Thus, the relationship is open, honest, trustworthy, and dependable. While the time issue may be microscopic compared to the problems at hand, it gives the client the opportunity to express the feelings and patterns of behavior with which he or she responds to the larger issues. One rule for closing a session is to start tapering off in intensity a few minutes before the scheduled end. Certain techniques suggested for actually bringing the session to a close include referring to the time limits, summarizing the important features of the current session, scheduling a future appointment, or suggesting some homework, something for the client to read, do, or think about. Other techniques include making subtle gestures of preparation to leave, such as looking at the door or clock, standing up, and moving to the door and open it. The main goal when terminating a session is to consolidate what has been achieved into some durable benefit for the client. Clients who share intimate feelings, and especially those who confess something of a sinful nature, should be reassured of the counselor's continued respect. Pastoral counselors might want to thank clients for the confidence placed in them by discussing such painful areas and remind them that these matters will be held in confidence. This action strengthens a relationship that might otherwise disintegrate between sessions. The client's final learning experience from the therapeutic relationship is a constructive, creative closure for both the pastoral counselor and the counseling situation. Termination forces clients to find that they can bear both the fear and the pain of withdrawal from a depth of a union perhaps never risked since birth and weaning, and it forces them to discover within themselves the rightful substitute. The client's interaction between the will to unite and the will to separate is continuous from the first session to the last. Yet, there occurs in clients the general trend that moves them to the final point of rejecting this supporting relationship and asserting the independent self. Pastoral counselors must understand that people regret leaving situations that have been satisfying or rewarding. For this reason, pastoral counselors try to take great care to see that the intensity of the positive transference is sufficiently diminished in the later stages of counseling in order to permit a leave-taking that is not too traumatic. Clients often ask their pastoral counselors in early sessions how long the counseling process might take. Many pastoral counselors are unwilling at such an early point to risk committing themselves to a guess at the termination date. However, according to a number of experimental studies, the speed of improvement may often be largely determined by client expectancy, as conveyed to them by their counselors. The studies also showed that a favorable response to brief therapy may be enduring. By the time the counseling situation is ready to be terminated, the relationship has come to have great meaning for clients. Thus, ending may arouse some anxiety. One researcher stated that as a general rule, the longer the pastoral counseling sessions last, the greater the number of sessions necessary to terminate. Clients in these situations need their counselors to help them express this anxiety rather than to interpret these responses as a need for further treatment. Pastoral counselors must be willing to terminate counseling and to allow the relationship to their clients to recede into a more normal pastoral parishioner relationship. Generally, the counseling process will terminate spontaneously. A series of elaborate studies of counseling indicate that client responses tend to become more positive and self-directive toward the end of counseling. The counselor can look for other client clues to effect closure. 1. Indications that the general goals of counseling, such as insight and understanding, have been accomplished. 2. Intellectual awareness of a solution and direction to a problem. 3. Diminution of such factors of anxiety. And 4. Behavioral improvement. Another finding from this study revealed that counselors terminated counseling when they felt the goals had been achieved or when lack of progress, in their opinion, did not indicate a need for continuation of counseling. Once the problem was delineated, many counselors structured the time limits in such a way that when this limit was reached, closure proceedings began. Clients terminate themselves for many reasons. These include disruptions caused by client resistance, time limitations, scheduling problems, ignorance about counseling, anxiety or trauma, cost, and the feeling that the counselor is no longer needed. Pastoral counselors often set higher goals from their clients than the clients set for themselves. Clients sometimes make several abortive attempts to operate alone with a few newly discovered insights, only to be forced to return later. Verbal preparation is the first step in terminating a series of sessions. When pastoral counselors feel the point of maximum benefit approaching, they can begin to listen for expressions of a similar opinion from their clients and agree with them. Instead of maintaining an asymmetrical relationship, in which the client is primarily the talker and the minister the listener, the pastoral counselor may establish a more egalitarian relationship in which he or she may talk more but interpret less. When formal termination of the counseling situation actually occurs, the pastoral counselor should enable the client to feel as free to return as to stay in counseling. Clients need to be aware that if an obvious need arises, they should not spend too much energy trying to avoid returning. They should know that the pastoral counselor is available if real difficulties arise. The benefits of the therapeutic experience emerge in part from the client's awareness that this intensive relationship is begun with the idea that it will end eventually, and a normal pastor-parishioner relationship will resume. Thus, the termination phase of the counseling becomes a process of affirming or reaffirming the difference the clients may perceive in themselves as they have developed in the pastoral counselor-client relationship. The ending of a counseling relationship brings to the pastoral counselor the satisfaction of having helped another person, but it also brings the humbling recognition that not all that has been hoped for has been accomplished. Moreover, honest pastoral counselors usually recognize that in helping others, they also have been helped. The pastoral counselor can be grateful to the Spirit of God, whose power made possible whatever change was accomplished.